So now we are going to take each part one by one. So we're going to start with the eyes and the nose and the lips and just kind of analyze them and just go deeper into depth and detail of what it is to draw each one. So get out a new sheet of paper, and I'm going to start with red just so you guys can essentially see me draw it twice, meaning, okay, sometimes it's easier just to start drawing and then explain afterwards. So remember how we drew the eyes in the last video. Essentially, it was kind of a shape like this. And if we really want to kind of break it down, it's kind of like a C shape, right? But with the edges kind of tapering out that way. It resembles a C. If we were to cut a line across, it would be a trapezoid. So there's lots of interesting ways of looking at these shapes as a good way to memorize them. So if you want to think about this being an upside down C, then that's helpful. Great. Okay, so now we got that. And then there's going to be kind of a smaller, more thinned out C, as it were, right here. Now, one side I'm going to connect. This side I'm not going to connect it. I'm going to add in another little shape there. Now this is the tear duct shape. Now you can see it's kind of, again, I'm using all angles, so it's almost like a little L that's right there. And, this top part is going to connect there. So if you're using a pencil, you can, obviously feel free to erase wherever you want to erase. If you're using a pen, well, just do some kind of darker, more determined lines, as it were, connecting these shapes. So top C shape, bottom C, thinned out shape, and then this little L shape right there. I can even close that off. Now remember, this is the inner tear duct. We all have them. If you're a little confused, you can just look in a mirror and look at your own tear duct, and there you go. We all have them. It's a great thing about drawing the face is that we have a face ready at all times. You can always look in a mirror and draw the face. Okay, I'm gonna zoom in a little bit more. Okay, so this is basically the outline of the eye. Now we just kind of put in some of the details. Remember, the top lid and bottom lids have a couple parts to them, 3 specifically. So this top lid here, basically just going to mimic, with these angles, these top lids. You can notice here, now we're getting into the specifics, that this part here, as it goes closer down here, it gets a little bit closer to this line right here. It's very subtle, but the point is, now we're getting into variation. This isn't a robotic character. Humans are not robotic, as it were. We're organic, right? There's curves and there's subtle little variations and things happening. Things aren't completely parallel. Maybe this upper lid here, this line here might be a little angle. Now again, every eye is different. I know I'm going to keep repeating these things. Every eye, every face is different, because it's true. You can see here now, I have a line straight across here, which eventually I'm going to kind of curve out. But you can see this line here, it tapers a bit, meaning it's closer together right here, and it's a bit further apart here. If you want, you can even connect these two lines, because this is a good way to look at what's called the planes, P-L-A-N-E-S, planes, like airplanes. But in this case, they are geometric shapes in perspective. Now, we're not going to talk about perspective at all, but in future courses where I do talk about perspective, these come up, and you can see it's broken down now into 3 parts. This part of the eyelid is 1, this is 2, this is 3. And so you can do the same with the bottom. Remember, the bottom is going to be just a little thinner and kind kind of more stretched out, but it's still kind of a 1, 2, 3 process. Okay. So now with the bottom lid, now we're going to get into the specifics. I'm going to sharpen my pencil here. Okay. Hopefully you guys have pencil sharpeners. If not, they're very cheap. You can get one at a store that's not open, so online right now in 2020, April specifically. Okay, so remember I said there's 3 parts. Well, I'm going to draw a very thin line right here. You can see here it's the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Essentially this is the little ledge here of the eye. And I'm going to sidetrack a little bit. I'm going to draw it right here. If we're going to draw the eye from the side, there's the eyeball, right? And then you have the lids, and there's thickness to them. This is very, very important when you're drawing eyes, is to just be mindful of that little thickness. This is the little ledge that I was talking about. It comes out, it's separate, obviously separate than the eyeball itself. There's thickness, same with the upper lids. So that is what I'm indicating right here, is this little ledge here. And then we're going to continue it. It goes all the way to the edge. The ledge goes to the edge. Okay. Now this one is going to kind of connect right in here. It's a very nuanced little thing that happens here, but again, geometrically, this is the absolute simplest way of looking at it. Now, remember the top lid has the ledge too. The reason we don't see it a lot is because you get eyelashes, right? That come out right here. Now, if you're drawing a female, you're going to have thicker eyelashes than normal. Sometimes, depending, right? So the ledge is there, but it should not be as prominent as the lower one. And again, we can start breaking things down into sections of 3. Look at how this one breaks from here, and this one kind of runs along this way, and this one breaks that way. Okay, so now the iris, the fun part. Now we've created the container. The iris is going to be, from the side view, an ellipse, but from the front, it's going to be a perfect circle. Now, again, you don't have to draw a perfect circle, but you can see here that I'm cutting off the top part of it right here. Now, general rule, again, is general, is that you want to be able to fit half an iris. Again, the iris is going to be the round part of the eye, the colored part with all the pupil and the highlight and all that stuff in there. You can fit half of one on either side of it towards the edge of the eye. Meaning if I drew this too small, I would have much bigger gaps here. So this is just a general rule. Now, the bottom part basically comes right up to the bottom lid. Like so. Again, you can see how I'm kind of just making a mark and then making it darker and then kind of skirting around it and dancing around it. A lot of times I am kind of pivoting on my palm here. You might smudge the drawing. That's okay. It gives it a little bit more texture. I'm just kind of moving around trying to find the lines, and then I kind of press down a little bit harder when I'm feeling a bit more confident. So something like that. Okay, now the pupil is going to be another circle in there. Now draw this very lightly because we're just indicating, okay, that's a good spot for it. Now this changes shape, right? Depending on how much light there is in the environment, this is going to be bigger or smaller. So this can always, you can play with the size of this circle. Now I'm going to add another circle, and that's going to be the highlight. Now that's going to be right here. And you can see I put half of that circle onto the pupil and half onto the iris. It's a great place to add the highlight. Now the pupil, I'm going to darken it in. Because it is, basically it's a hole. It's a hole that goes all the way back. It's letting all that light in. Now, after darkening this pupil, I'm going to add in just some very simple eye detail. Now, it's very complicated what's happening in the human eye here. It's a muscle system, right? But the easiest way to think about it is just a bunch of squiggly lines emanating from a center point, meaning the center is literally the center of the pupil. If I just draw some squiggly lines kind of emanating out from there, not too squiggly, but not too straight. If you want to really get into this, pull up a picture of an eye, a close-up of an eye, and see how wonderful all of that detail is. But this is a great way to think about it. Squiggly lines emanating from the center point. And then what I can do is I'm just going to add in just a bunch of random little ellipse shapes. Some eyes have these, some don't. It's very rare that we are very close up to a human eye. The closer you get to a human eye, especially with micro photography, you can really start to see all the really incredible detail. But you could see here that this is kind of doing the job. So that's the gist of the eye, right? Now remember, we had eyebrows. Let me just kind of bring this up a little bit more. Remember, the wings of the keystone are right here. If you want to refer back to your other drawing that you did, there, it's about right here, right? And then the eyebrow kind of comes right off the top of that wing of the keystone being more over here. Remember, the eyebrow is going to determine the expression of your character. So this is just a nice general, again, curve. If you want to think in terms of angles, it's basically a 1-2 angle system, meaning 1 and then 2 breaks right here. If you have a mirror, or if you just use your phone, you can just look at your own eyebrows and it will be revealed to you. It's all right in front of you. And then remember the line that comes from the side right here. This is just a good indication of where the form changes. Now, we're not going to get too much into anatomy or skull anatomy, muscle anatomy, but in future courses, I really get into the importance of this break right here, as well as this one, as well as all of them. Now remember the little notches we added in the previous video, that comes right about here. So we have our tear duct, and then we have the little break here. Little secret, this is the skull. So when I do future videos on skull anatomy and how to draw a skull, this is the skull. Really, so the socket, right? The indication of where the socket starts. But as long as we indicate it in our face right here, that's all we need. Okay, so in the next video, we're going to do noses, much in the same way. And if you just want to continue with your eye drawing and just put some more detail, pull up a photo of an eye and start detailing it out. In the next video, after we do the nose and the lips, we're going to shade all of this. And then the last video, we're going to kind of put it all together. See you guys in the next one. Okay guys, let's jump right into noses. So I'm going to start with this as the base, like I did before. Kind of sketch over it. This is a great way to, kind of, restart a drawing from a rough stage. Just by putting another piece of paper over it, you can still faintly see it. It gives you a good guide of where to start next. Okay, so remember, we start with the keystone when we're drawing the nose, because it's all connected. And again, practice makes perfect. Repetition and intensity is how to get good at anything. So we got the keystone, we got the wings, and then we're going to sketch down a couple of lines. 2 from the center, 2 from the outside, and then cut off the line right here. Now remember, you can move this line wherever you want. In fact, I'll do that here because I did want to adjust that initial drawing as I did in the first video. So I'm just going to do that right here. So just use your eraser. Eraser is your friend. Okay, so essentially that's it. I really don't need the underdrawing anymore to confuse us. So the nose, as we see, and not including the keystone and the wings, but I'm just going to number out the parts. 1, 2, 3, 4. So at any angle, whether you're drawing it from 3/4 or, well, not so much the side, right, but from the front and up view, down view, it's going to have 4 parts. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit more to that. So we have the front part. So whenever I refer to the front part of the nose, it's this center rectangular shape. And then you have 2 and 3, the kind of, they're angled. They're kind of facing in those directions, if you want to think of it that way. And then the underside of the nose, which is that little triangle shape. So I'm just going to kind of get rid of these numbers just so you guys know when I refer to the parts, those are the parts of the nose. Okay, so remember we had drawn in the little nostrils in this little triangle. Now a good way to think of these nostrils, they're kind of coming off of, and I'm going to draw in a faint kind of egg shape right here. Now this is called the ball of the nose. I didn't do this in the initial sketch just to not confuse you guys, but every nose has some degree of kind of a shape at the end. It's not always round. Some are more angled. Again, every feature is very different, but this kind of continues all the way down to the bottom of the triangle in some cases. And so these nostrils, you can see they are within the triangle, but they're coming right off of that ellipse shape, the ball as it were. And so you could see here, it's kind of doing this thing. If I were to draw it again down here, it's kind of like a little wavy element. It's happening right here. So you have the underside of the ball of the nose, and just to keep things super simple, it kind of goes right into the 2 nostrils right there. Now, like I said, every nose is different. Nostrils are going to be at different angles sometimes. They're going to be straight on, they're going to be thinner. So you can play with this shape here in different parts of the nose. And again, if you ever have issues, look in the mirror, see your own nose, pull up a picture online and just type in face and see what's going on there. But this is a very simple and effective way of drawing a nose. Now remember, we had shaded this triangle. I can do that here as well. I can just kind of lightly shade in the whole thing, because this is where the nose turns under. Now, like I did with the eye in the first video, I'm going to just quickly show you what I mean. Every nose has the top part, which is number 1, right? But now we're seeing it from the side. And that number 1 is just a very thin little sliver of this. And then the sides are nice and big, right? And you have the ball of the nose that comes here. This is where the nose turns under. It turns and then goes underneath. That is why we kind of shade it. Now, I'm not getting too much into the shading. We're going to do that in the next video where we really get into the shading of all this, but this is just a nice thing to do initially when you're drawing your nose, just to help distinguish the upper part of the nose from the underside of the nose. So now with the nostrils, I can continue from that same line, just kind of continue it so that it kind of goes up a little bit. Same on this side. Now again, if the nose is tilted back, then you're going to see more of this nostril shape. If the head is tilted forward, then we're not going to see any holes, right? So this is kind of, you know, it's like a kind of an in-between state. Essentially, we're just looking straight at it. So essentially that is the nose. Now, just to clarify like what these outer sides are, you can see these when you're looking at a photo of a person, but they're not lines. These are just areas that are shaded. So when we start to shade in the next video, we can shade this whole area, but the lines are guides. They are guides to show us how the nose connects to the face. Like in this side view here, this, so number 3 here, this would be number 3, and how it connects to, and this would be the cheek, right? And later on, you know, we do the lips and all that. We'll get into how it all connects. So essentially, this is it for the nose. If you just remember the 1, 2, 3, 4 parts of the nose and how it connects to the keystone and the wings of the keystone, that is never going to change with any face you draw. And then later on, when I do courses on how to draw animals, it's the same thing. It's the same areas of connection. One thing I can do here is, again, not every nose goes straight down. You can have very subtle lines that kind of do something like this. Done. So hopefully that's enough information for you to, you know, just start drawing noses. You can just do a whole page of noses and become an expert at noses, and it's only going to help your face drawing. So, okay, up next we will do the lips. See you guys there. Here we are at the last part of this video, and we're going to do the lips. And the lips are going to be the easiest part out of the 3 main features. So grab a new sheet of paper and let's just draw those lips in. Now remember, that top lip can be easily represented with a triangle, like so. Now, as I'd mentioned, and as you probably already know, the lip shapes between male and female can differ pretty greatly, right? So if this is going to be a female lip, it already kind of looks like a female lip because it's more fuller, right? If we're going to do a male lip, if I just kind of do one down here, it's not going to be such an angled triangle. It's going to be a thinner upper lip. Now, some males have thick upper lips and some females have thinner upper lips. It all depends. But generally, I'm just showing you guys general rules. A male would be more like this, female would be more like this. Okay, so now the bottom lip, we're going to have a curve, and this is just a nice juxtaposition anyway, because we're having a curve opposed to sharp angles. So already the design element of this is interesting because you have a curve that's opposing a straight line. Let me get rid of our male lip down here. Okay. And as I mentioned in that first video, underneath that bottom lip, we have a little kind of divot, as it were. This is a concave little area. It kind of goes in. So you have the lip that is curved, and I can even draw some form lines around that lip. These lines are basically helping me to understand, okay, there's a curve happening here on that bottom lip. There is also a curve on the top lip, but it's just not so pronounced. But we can also add in these subtle little curved lines. These are form lines, but they're also going to help with detailing out the texture of the lips. If you look at your own lips in the mirror, you'll notice that there's a bunch of lines, right? Wrinkle lines. And, you know, our mouth stretches out, and so that is caused by all the stretching, right? But it's going to allow us to shade it and to understand the form of the lip and to help us add texture. So adding these lines is kind of serving several purposes. Now, just to draw it from the side view, so we have our nose, right? It comes down, and then it goes right into that upper lip, which is like that. Still a triangle from the side view. And then that bottom lip that curves a bit more from the bottom. Remember, we had the nose and the underside of the nose like that. But it goes right into that upper lip. Now, there's an element here where the top lip kind of comes to a little point on the inside, right? This is where we're breaking the triangle now. And now I'm going inwards. Now this happens on everyone, and you can play with this shape on some lips. It's not as sharp of an arrow. We can call this just a little arrow. So you can just play with even just how that looks, right? So I can even get rid of that top part of the triangle. Now, right above that, we have what's called the philtrum, and it's another indentation. It goes in. You can't really see it here, but you know, look in the mirror and you will be able to see one of these. This right here, again, you can have a curve. We're drawing angles initially, but you can put a curve in here. This is what's referred to a lot as Cupid's bow, right? It's literally like a bow and arrow, well, without the arrow. This element here, if I were to draw it from the side here, it's like a bow. This would be the handle, right? You got the hand coming in and grabbing this thing. So that's what this is here, the Cupid's bow. So whenever you are drawing your face and drawing the lips, that's just something kind of playful and fun to remember. Oh, it's like a bow and arrow, Cupid's bow. You're also going to get a little kind of point in the center of the lip, like that. It's kind of almost mimicking that Cupid's bow element. And now I'm just kind of darkening the lines to the edge. So you can see here, it's very simple, but it's very effective. This bottom lip. Now, you know, there's little parts. Remember the ledge on the eyelid, right? You have this little ledge on the bottom part of the lips. Again, look in the mirror, look at reference online. You will see that it's basically, if I were to draw it here on the side view, you have the major part of the lip, and you have this little tiny ledge. It's almost so small, but it's there, and it's just another little kind of detail element we can add. So essentially, I'm getting a double line system right here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. Okay. So when we connect to the side, you have a piece of skin that connects out a bit further. And if I'm going to draw form lines on these things, it's going to look like that, you know. It's almost like this whole separate piece of skin right there. Now, this just helps give a bit more dimensionality to our lips. So what happens is that this skin over here gets a bit thicker as it goes to the end. And this inner part kind of comes right here. This is too confusing, don't worry about it. The whole point of me mentioning this is that the bottom part of the lip is not just one line, as a lot of artists, including myself, used to draw that bottom lip with one line, but it falls flat because there is always this other little element. And this is going to make your drawings just feel even a little bit more realistic, even if you're drawing stylized characters, cartoons and such. So we're going to get into shading later on, but again, remember these form lines here are going to help us to shade. And you can add in just random lines that are kind of curving at the bottom, from the top to the bottom like that. And same with the upper lip. Now, I'm going to talk about the corners of the lip. Now, the corners are where we can basically tell the expression. So this is a neutral mouth, right? But if I come here to the corner and then just add in just a slight little curve upwards, you can see here that it's given a little bit of an expression, a little bit of a smirk or a smile. Kind of like that. It's very simple, very subtle. If these weren't there, it would completely change the expression of the character. You don't even have to see the eyes to understand the expression of this character per se. Now, these lines here, of course, when someone smiles, they're going to really kind of curve upwards, right? So again, we're just doing a very neutral set of lips. And that's pretty much it. Remember, it's just the two parts of the lip, the upper part and the lower part. And then adding in, this takes a bit of practice to really get this to work right. But once you do add in this little ledge that runs along the bottom of the lip all the way to the edges, it's going to make your drawings really, really pop and really, really tell the viewer, whoever's looking at it, like, oh, they know what's going on there. They know the anatomy of the lips. Now, remember, this little part here gets a bit of shade. We're not going to go too much into shading, but you can just kind of hatch that down like that. And remember, the chin has a curve like that. So the bottom lip attaches right here to this little indentation, and then we have the chin. And so that's basically how we draw the lips from the front on. And it's always going to be variations of this. So hopefully that helps you guys with drawing your lips. And in the next video, we're going to shade all of this stuff. See you guys there.